All right. Here with two of my stars, we have the president of Hispanic Lobbyists Association, Larry Gonzalez, Raben principal as well, and our very own Jamal Simmons here with us to talk about the hottest news of the day, the James Comey briefing. So I'll get right into it. James Comey started off the briefing by essentially calling this administration liars. Larry, you take it first. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I mean the spectacle of all of it is always quite amazing. Between the media covering the long lines outside D.C. bars of people to watch it, but they did get right into it in terms of it wasn't a complete bombshell today because of the leak of the testimony yesterday, but it's still pretty jarring when you hear it. And immediate comparisons to Watergate and to the Nixon administration and so forth. So it makes for compelling courtroom drama, so to speak, and look forward to seeing more to come.
Jamal, were you surprised when you started it?
No, it was. I think, as Larry just mentioned, he dropped the bombshell last night when they released his testimony. So seeing that testimony kind of let everybody in on what some of the big news was going to be. But then the other thing that really sort of amazed me was that he talked about how disturbed he was when he talked to Donald Trump and how he had never written down conversations with previous presidents. He hadn't written down conversations with other officials. But when it came to meeting Trump, he was so disturbed by the way the president behaved and the things that he said that he felt like he had to put it down on paper.
So you brought up something that I thought was interesting, that he released his testimony a full day before. And I wonder what you all think is the reason behind that. I personally think maybe he wanted to give the senators time to prepare proper, thoughtful, substantive questions. But Larry, why do you think he did that?
Yeah, I would say that's probably to a certain extent correct. I also think perhaps he felt it would lead to less fanfare, so to speak. It had certainly reporters and other folks scrambling around because that is a bit unprecedented, right? In terms of, I know we cover committee work a lot and we're always shouting, please give us the testimony. So to release it 24 hours in advance, I think underscores the nature of this kind of testimony. I thought one thing that was interesting, just to piggyback on your comments, Jamal, is the idea that he had already come into the meetings with the president with this preconceived notion that I'm so concerned this man is going to lie about everything that we talked about that I need to do all of this, take notes, and make sure that it's all well documented. I think that speaks volumes about what we're dealing with here with this administration.
So Jamal, we talked a little bit about the testimony and the way it read. It read like a script on House of Cards or like a John Grisham novel. But one thing we said in the beat today is that the book is always better than the movie. So what do you think so far? Is the book better than the movie?
The testimony did read pretty well. I think one of the reasons why he put that testimony out may have been, all the television networks, not just the cable networks, were airing this live. NPR had it on. I was listening to it in my Lyft ride on the way into the studio. I was listening to it there. They had it on all the TV stations. At one point, I even took a picture of it. I was watching. I turned it on CBS, and The Price is Right is usually on this time of day, and it said Price is Right on the label, but then you looked at it, and it was Comey testifying, right? So every person, every stay-at-home mom, every senior citizen, every student, anybody who's home during the day now watched this. I think for Comey, by releasing the testimony early, he ensured that all the networks were going to carry this live and stick with it the entire time.
So one thing we thought was interesting, Larry and I were talking about the Beat's copy editor, Patricia Guadalupe, noted that the telenovelas were not airing today because they were broadcasting Comey, and then she had an interesting comment that she posted.
Talk about unprecedented that, because, the novellas are everything for Spanish language television, and for them to pull that and actually air the Comey hearing live, I thought was interesting. Her comment was, please switch it to the Spanish language station so you could hear I guess at the time it was either Burr or Warner sound Cuban because they, of course, translate from the English and hear Comey sound Venezuelan. So I thought that was a rather
Were there
funny.
any surprises so far? Was there anything that you weren't expecting to hear, particularly during the question and answer period?
I was hard pressed to find anything surprising. Well, actually, let me think about that. I think Senator McCain's line of questioning was a bit surprising. He seemed to suggest that Hillary Clinton should be under investigation as well as Donald Trump. I mean, that's what I was a bit dumbfounded by some of his questioning and where he was going with it. So that was really the only surprise. Other than that, the sort of the way much of the Republican line of questioning brought it back to the Clinton stuff and Loretta Lynch and why she asked the difference between, calling it a matter versus an investigation. It became partisan, but that was to be expected.
Jamal, what surprised you?
Well, I think the moment where Senator Collins asked Comey how the memo information got out, and he admitted that he shared it with a friend of his. She asked him who it was. He said it was a friend of his from Columbia Law School. And so he not only admitted that he was the source of the leak, but talked about how he leaked the information. And then someone else, maybe it was Roy Blunt, came back and asked him more questions about it. And he said, well, why'd you do it? He said, well, there were reporters at the end of my driveway. I was trying to get my wife out of the house because we wanted to hide out someplace. And they were like, if I gave it myself, it would be like feeding the seagulls and they would be all over me. So I just thought that was sort of funny and honest. And I think, whatever you want to say about Comey, I have my problems with what he did during the campaign, but he's never seemed like someone who was making things up or was in league with one party or another. He was doing whatever he thought was best, even when that was the wrong thing to do. So I think this established him even more as a credible witness.
We're definitely going to keep our eye on it and have a whole section about it in tomorrow's Beat. So I hope everybody will subscribe at thebeatdc.com. And thank you guys for being here and giving us an update.